वेलकम बैक टू अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ द इनविंसिबल जर्नी एंड पहले के बहुत सारे एपिसोड्स आप लोग ने देखे होंगे एंड बहुत सारे हम लोग ने ट्राई किया टू गेट डिफरेंट डिफरेंट एरियाज of people in sports. And today we have Chhavi Banga with us, who is a sports scientist. And उनके बारे में थोड़ा डिस्क्रिप्शन जानना बहुत ज़रूरी है because she holds a lot of experience in many other things in the sports industry. And आजकल जो चीज़ें बहुत ज़्यादा ट्रेंड में है, बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है, it's about sports science, it's about tracking, it's about nutrition, it's about everything else. तो she is a sports scientist. And but छवि का करियर शुरू हो गया था and she has done it in India, she has done it in Australia, she has done it in United Kingdom as well. So basically, she did her bachelor's in exercise and sports science from Manipal University, Manipal Academy of Higher Education. Then she went to the Deakin University, Melbourne, Australia, wherein she did her semester there. It's a sports marketing advanced program, and then in the master's in sports management in Portsmouth, United Kingdom. She has worked with Rajasthan Royals, which is like she did a sports marketing thing there. She also worked with Kinemo Media, which is while a sports media manager, and also she was the founder and organizer of Azionare 2019. I'm sorry if I mess it up, but it's in Manipal.
That's fine.
It's in Manipal, and she was a fundraiser to provide sports education to underprivileged schools in Manipal. So it's a really great thing to do in the sports industry, which is really blooming in India right now. So, Chhavi, thank you so much for giving us your time and coming on the show.
Thank you so much for this amazing introduction. I feel like a celebrity already, but yeah.
You are one of it.
Thanks for
Okay,
introducing me so well.
so before we begin, a lot of people still don't know what is sports science and still don't know why is it important in sports because जैसे image है sports की तो it's like you go on the field, you play, खेलना है बस, अगर अगर फुटबॉल है तो खेलना है, तो गोल मारना है, क्रिकेट है तो रन्स बनाने हैं, कैचेस पकड़ने हैं. So it's what
Yeah.
it's like that. That's how it's created. But sports science is really important for athletes and also for the clubs and academies as well. So what motivated you to take up sports science as a career?
What motivated me? Okay. Not many people know this, but sports science was never on plans. It was actually a by chance thing which happened. So while I was doing my pre-medicine in 11th and 12th grade, so I'm from a business family. My parents are into business. My grandfather was into business, uncle as well. So when I said I want to do medicine, they were like, what is wrong with you? Like, why do you want to do medicine? But eventually they were like, okay, if that's what you want to do, go for it. And I started doing medicine. So I was in like 12th grade and I was preparing for MBBS, and obviously NEET was the way to go through with it. But towards the end of my 12th grade, I was like, no, this is not what I really want to do. It's not like aligning with me and stuff like that. And I started looking into paramedic courses. And I was like, okay, physiotherapy it is. I'm going to do physiotherapy. So I got admission in physiotherapy, reached Manipal, all ready to join physiotherapy. A day before joining my course, I met the HOD of sports science department back in Manipal.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just having a casual conversation, and he started explaining what sports science is and how he's developing it. And in those 5 to 10 minutes, I was like into it. I knew it. This is what I wanted to do, even though I was already joining physiotherapy at that point. So my parents were there with me as well. They'd come to drop me. So I went to my parents and I'm like, hey, I don't want to do physiotherapy. I want to do sports science. And they were like, okay, if you're really like into it, why not just go for it? And that's how sports science actually started. So those 10 minutes were what made me join sports science. So yeah, I give all the...
A turning point of your life. Those 10 minutes were
It was a turning point.
So,
absolutely.
Just to be precise and clear for those who doesn't know sports science, how can you sum it up in a sentence? What is sports science?
Okay. Sports science is studying sports in a very holistic way. So sports psychology bhi aata hai usme, sports nutrition aa jata hai, sports management, strength and conditioning, in fact exercise physiology as well. So there are so many streams which are in sports science, and together if you combine them, that is what is called sports science. So yes.
Okay, so thank you for the brief introduction about sports science, and I guess लोगों को और glimpse मिल गया है कि sports science क्या है. And while we go ahead with this podcast, people would really find out how interesting being a sports scientist is.
Sports science, yeah.
But now marathon is a part and parcel of everyone's life. बहुत लोग ऐसे marathon में
Yeah.
indulge होते हैं, 3 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 21 kilometers.
Uh,
बहुत सारे लोग in India also, in some various parts in various states of India, there are marathon fests and events wherein people go and they run and they walk and they do things like that. So you were an event manager at Manipal Marathon, and
yeah.
so just give us a glimpse, because a lot of our viewers are from Mumbai, a lot of our viewers are from Pune, Nasik, and stuffs. And how is it in Manipal? Because marathon, volunteering in marathon, it's a really exciting task, I feel, because
It is. It is.
it's really fun to watch people in a crowd running and for a cause.
Yeah.
Basically, marathons happen for a
Yeah.
cause. So how was your experience in Manipal, and what is the atmosphere in the Manipal Marathon?
So, Manipal Marathon is one of the most prestigious marathons in India, actually. And it's really developing. I think this year is going to be the fourth or fifth edition of Manipal Marathon. And to have like 10,000 plus runners participate in an event in such a small town, I'm not sure if the viewers know or not. Manipal is a university town,
Yeah.
not even a city. It's just because the university is there, the town is developed as much. So to have students and other people fly from across the world, across the country to just come for an event, it's a very big thing.
Right.
And I think I did Manipal Marathon 2018, 2019 for 2 years, or in fact 3 years, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
So for 2 years, I did it as a medical assistant, where we were just helping with injuries and just doing injury prevention and stuff like that. And the third year, I did it as an event manager. And I would like to say कि दोनों में it was zameen आसमान का difference, like totally different when I did medical assistant or when I did event management.
Okay.
So medical assistant में I knew कि ठीक है, injury है, ACL है, leg है. I mean, it was very clear कि my task is
Right.
इतना ही और ये करना है, icing करना है, ये सब करना है. But when it came to event management in the last year, it was very like dynamic. There was so much happening कि तुम्हें stage भी देखना है, तुम्हें runners भी देखने हैं, बाकी लोग क्या कर रहे हैं, and that there's a team under you, there's a team over you. So it's a very fast role. You don't know what is happening and how quickly things are happening, and you have to be in 10 different places. So उस तरह से the role is very different in both aspects.
Right. And yeah. Sorry to cut you. Continue.
No, go on.
Yeah. So that's what I was telling, because not only in marathon but any sports events, there's a lot going on behind, and
Yeah.
being an event manager in such a sports event is really a task, because बहुत सारे लोग रहते हैं जिनको अभी कभी influencers आ जाते हैं. There are collaborators coming in, there are celebrities coming in, you need to handle them well. Then there are people running, तो ढंग से हो रहा है कि नहीं, बहुत सारी चीजें रहता है involved. And I guess Manipal Marathon, I searched Google when you told me about, when I read your profile, I searched for Manipal Marathon on Google, and there were really a lot of snippets which I saw, which really appealed me. It's like it's like a function there. It's like a celebration there, Manipal Marathon, and it really and I really want to appeal to viewers to go on Google and to check some snippets about Manipal Marathon. It's really amazing.
Absolutely. It is an emotion altogether. In fact, one more thing is that even before the Manipal, one thing which you can see in the town is everybody starts preparing for the marathon.
Right.
And even if there are like 70% of people who wish to participate, the other 30% of the people who are participating because they've seen people practice for it. Events से 2 महीने पहले ही people start running, and you know, even if you're from a sedentary lifestyle, you start turning into an active lifestyle,
Right.
and it's a very good change. So that way, it's nice.
Like these events generally motivate people to come up, and even if it's marathons, I don't feel people run for to win or something like that. They just want to have that experience, and that's really great. And moving on, you did your sports marketing advanced program from Rajasthan Royals, and then in the Deakin University in Australia, which was, I guess, a combined program or something like that. And then what did you feel is different, like doing it in India? Because Rajasthan Royals is one of the most successful franchises. Shilpa Shetty was also, she was the owner of Rajasthan Royals as well. And also in India, cricket is celebrated like it's a blessing to us in India. And then what are the different perspectives when you were working in India and then you went to Deakin, Australia? How do people in India look at sports, and in Australia people look at sports?
Not many people are going to like when I answer this, but so this course, I came across this course in 2020. So that time COVID was at its full peak and my internship was cancelled. I was stuck in Manipal, couldn't go back home. And I came across this course and I started reading about it. Again, another turning point in my career. And एकदम fine print में नीचे लिखा था, you can get a chance to work with Rajasthan Royals. And I was like, ठीक है, कि इतने सारे लोग में से एक को कैसे ही chance मिलेगा? And I was reading more about it and I started doing the course. It took me like 2 to 3 months to do the course. Finishing the course, I got a call from the HR of RR, and they're like, "We want to hire you. We want to speak more about it." And I was like, "Yeah, we can speak about it." But the thing was, having worked in Australia and having worked in India, one thing which I've realized is India mein they are like, "Acha, physical education ke teacher ho kya?" So the comments which you get, they are not very like impressive,
Right.
but well, while you're in Australia, they're like, okay, sports science, we know what it is, we know what you're doing, we know where you're trying to get from here. So in that way, I think India needs a little more push. People in India need to know about it, and you're doing a wonderful thing to, you know, generate awareness about sports, which is very good. But yes, there is a need of awareness in the Indian subcontinent for people to know more what sports science is. And no, it is not a physical education ka teacher, or it is not giving exercises ki do sets iske kar lo, do sets uske kar lo. That is not what is sports science. Sports science is a holistic experience. तुम grassroots level कर सकते हो, कुछ भी कर सकते हो, but yeah.
Right. In India, basically, वो school से ही वो चीज हो जाती है, because while we were in school and stuff, the physical education teacher, उनका जो भी lecture था, it was always been proxied by some major and mainstream subjects. So people or students or even a parents sometimes they did not know कि sports में career हो सकता है, sports is a career. Exactly. And not many viewers don't know. I was also going to be part of Deakin University because I had offer letters from Deakin and from Latrobe as well for sports.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but then I opted for Manchester eventually. But that's what it is when I played national level football in India, and then I came here, and the way people look at sports is really, really different here as well and in India as well. So I think it's the lack of awareness, and I think India is really blooming now.
It is.
I don't know if anyone knows about it, but Sports Science Center first started in Patiala as well, and Indian cricket team used sports science like early 2000s, and it is really a great thing if you look at it, but lack of awareness. And I hope with this perspective, with this podcast, people take up sports science more. But then back on the question, you worked with Rajasthan Royals. You said it is like first you thought किसी को chance कैसे मिलेगा इतने सारे जन में, but then you got an opportunity to work with them. So in a lot of these franchises, there's a proper framework. There are things going on. People are really passionate about cricket or to their franchise. So what was your key takeaways from this journey? What did you learn from this journey? Did your perspective at looking at sports changed, or was it pretty much same?
So I am a person who got into sports as a fan.
Right.
Used to watch football, and ऐसा था कि summer में एक IPL match तो देखना ही है पंजाब का कहीं. So like that's how I connected with football, with cricket. Sorry, so much so that I thought one tip, one hand was a legit rule in cricket. So yeah, that's how I started becoming a fan. And one thing which I learned in RR was, which has stuck by me till now. People say, "Tum sports marketing kar lo." It's the same thing, but no, it's not the same thing. While I was working with RR initially, it was a little bit difficult to adapt that because there was so much. Like I was a fangirl, like I was fangirling most of the time. To have Sanju Samson speak with me on a daily basis, it was a really big thing. But in RR, they were very connected with their fans, be it social media, be it in live or anywhere else. They were very connected with their fans. And they were very clear that we don't have customers, we have fans, and we need to deliver this. So this was the best part about RR. And like when I was working with them, even after working with them till date, I know for a fact that if you want to work in the sports industry, you cannot until you understand that there's a difference between a customer and a fan. Once you bridge that gap, sports marketing, sports management, everything will be clear to you. Until you bridge that gap, it's going to be a little bit difficult. And RR is the reason why I was able to bridge that gap. So all thanks to RR for that. But yeah, it was such a good experience to learn from people and to have people from all over the world teach you so many things and to interact with cricket players and stuff like that. It was a very big deal for me.
Right. I really connected to this key takeaway, which you just mentioned, that they are not our customers, they are our fans, and
Yeah,
it's bridging that gap and making them as your family. And a lot of people, like franchises, are adapting that. And obviously, people love cricket, and as I mentioned, cricket is a blessing to our country. And BCCI is one of the richest governing cricket body in India. It's sports governing body in India. So were you always inclined towards cricket, or you had your specific favorite sport or something, but you were always inclined towards cricket, or it was never in your plan?
cricket was my favorite sport until I discovered football. I'm going to say people are going to hate me for this, but it's the truth. I mean, I really liked cricket until I started university. That's when I was introduced to football and I started following football. I I think cricket has already found its place in India,
Right.
and football needs to find its place in India.
Yeah.
I mean, football is trying,
Right.
but there are so many hurdles, and one of the hurdles is cricket fans. I'm going
Exactly.
to get a lot saying this, but
That's the fact.
I
That's
mean,
the fact, actually.
it is a fact. People need to understand that cricket has its place, and football needs to be given that space to be developed in the country. I can see football is being developed, but not until another 10 to 15 years that we can see football as a proper sport in India.
Right.
Having said that, I transformed into a football fan, and I really wish that people in India were uh, as aware about football.
Mm-hmm.
Football was introduced as much as cricket in India.
Right.
I'm sure there are football players who want to, even play football and things like that, and they're not given that much. They don't know as much about football. So after, I think in 2016, that's when I converted into a football
Mm-hmm.
fan, not leaving it, having cricket at the back of my mind. But yes, I started appreciating football much more, and I understood what an emotion football is. And I had a favorite team after 2016, if I'm not wrong.
Right.
So it took a while, but it was a smooth transition, and I'm happy with that transition. But yes, all credit given to cricket, but football has deserved some credit as
So
well.
quickly out of the grid question, which is your favorite club in football?
Uh, this is a terrible time to talk about my favorite club because it's an absolute shit condition right now. If you and the viewers still haven't guessed it, I mean, I don't know what else to say. But yes, I'm a Chelsea fan, and God bless Chelsea. Like, just God bless Chelsea at this point.
Of course, of course. And
Yes.
your favorite football club in India?
Favorite football club in India? I want to say Kerala for some reason because that's what
Yeah.
I've been following so much.
Yeah.
And I had friends who worked in Kerala as well, which is why I have a little more love towards
Yeah.
Kerala football.
As you,
Yes.
as you mentioned, Kerala Football Club, like Kerala Blasters, basically. So, what you did in Rajasthan, the mentality which you had with Rajasthan Royals about creating that bridge with the fans and they're not our customers
Mhm.
and stuff. So, if
Yeah.
you look at it in Indian football, Kerala Blasters fans are like really, really amazing. The way they
Yes.
the way they motivate the players, the way they support the club is really helpful. So
Yeah.
moving on, it's like however we talk, it's a vast, broad subject, and
Yes.
we need to have another podcast for that. So moving on,
Absolutely.
you were the founder and organizer of Azionare 2020, where you fundraised and provided equipment for the underprivileged schools in Manipal. So in sports, we don't often get to see these things because nowadays people do these activities just to promote studies or maybe give them some books to read and stuff like that. But sports and making them and self-aware, the self-realization that sports is really needed. So how did it come in your mind, and why did you decide to do that, and how is this you're dedicated to sports so much?
So this was back in 2018. We were doing some like screening, pre grassroots level screening in various schools back in Manipal.
Mhm.
A part of our course, we had to go to various schools, identify the kids which can be developed into various sports in
Right.
India. So we were just like visiting kids and all of that. there was a kid who really wanted to play hockey, but he didn't have shoes to play hockey.
Oh,
Like he had no shoes. So I was interacting with him, and we were like measuring his weight, his height, and stuff like that, and his stride length and everything. And he goes like, I don't have shoes. I don't like. I really want to play hockey. And like I'm looking at other people, and no one is saying anything, and I'm like, okay, something needs to be done about it. As cringe as it sounds, it just hit me at that moment, like something needs to be done. What do we do with that much talent in this city?
right.
And it was a very small place, and it was possible to do an event and generate that much fund, and to be able to provide at least basic sports equipment, if not everything else. So I spoke to my HOD, like, can we do something about it? And that time Manipal was very Manipal was promoting exercise as health.
Right.
That's what they were doing. So like, if you can combine both, we are ready to support you with this. And he provided me full support, and we were able to pull off an event which had a footfall of around 5 to 10,000 people, and to have those many people contribute that much money. And I'm not sure if I can disclose numbers, but we gave such a huge amount to schools, and they were able to forget shoes. They were able to provide like proper jerseys and equipment to kids, and it felt like such a fulfilling thing to do, and it just made sense. Like it was a good thing to do. So yeah, I think people need to be more. People need to have their eyes more open,
Right.
and they just need to be a little more sensitive to these things. I mean, I didn't have to put a lot of me into it. It was just like helping people just organize an event. That's all it took, and it just led to such a good cause. If everybody was doing a little bit, I'm sure there's much more that can be done. So
I
that's
guess
how it.
by sharing this story, it's really important for people to understand. And you're one of that example wherein people would, really relate to these things. And one of an inspirational story about you doing these things. And a lot of by fundraising, people don't give out money or sponsorships for sports basically, and then you raised a huge amount and gave them back. That's really like serving the sports industry in a
Yeah.
great way. So hats off to you for that, and whoever you were involved in these things. So
Yeah.
shout out to y'all.
Major shout out to them.
Yeah. So moving on. So a lot of people. So this question is for them who are like little distracted and stuff like that. But this is the question because ये बहुत फायदा देगा ये question. So this question, a lot of people or sports lovers or sports players or sports enthusiasts, they don't know the usage of the sports science. Like there are technologies developing, there are metrics which are generated about an athlete and stuff like that. So how does a sports scientist develop an athlete? So this is a really good question, and I feel people who are athletes or who are sports or who are indulged in sports, they really have to hear this out. So how can a sports scientist develop an athlete?
See, there are two ways how this question can be answered. One is a way that layman people can understand, or the other way could be we could get very technical.
Right.
But I think to understand this question, it's very important to understand where sports science is coming from.
Right.
So sports science is only a way to improve performance. Like that's the main aim of sports science. That's what we're aiming at. So be it in improving performance from a kid's point of view or from a player's point of view.
Right.
There are two different things. So if you start like from a kid's point of view, it's grassroots level training. It's flat training. And in between that, you can have other streams which involve preventing injuries, strength and conditioning, which is again injuries. So all of these things, they can help you improve the performance of a player or of a kid, which in turn will help develop that person. So if you take like a cricket player or if you take a football player, now what happens in the UK? There are players who are performing in the academies, and the clubs just pick them up from the academies. So the people in the academies who are training them are the sports scientists.
Right.
So what meal they are eating, what exercise they are doing, what is going in their mind, and a person who's counseling them, all of this together is sports science. और उसमें जो वो एक है जो मैनेज कर रहा है कि वो कौन से रूम में जाके सो रहे हैं, कौन से बस में जा रहे हैं, that is sports management. और वो उतना ही डिफरेंस है स्पोर्ट्स साइंस और मैनेजमेंट में कि वो कवर हो जाता है कि if you see the entire team how it's working, उसमें स्पोर्ट्स मैनेजमेंट स्पोर्ट्स साइंस दोनों आ गए और पूरी टीम कंप्लीट हो गई. तो वो behind the scenes से pitch में आने में जितना difference है, that is covered with sports.
Right. But I really also would love if you answer this in a technical way, because when you mention in improving performance of a player, so बहुत ज़्यादा misconceptions भी है इस चीज़ में, because people take steroids for that matter, or take performance enhancing capsules or some tablets, wherein people think it's okay, performance improve हो रहा है, but it really impacts your body in a long run. It really is not good as a sports person to have that or consume that. So I really want you to give light or enlighten the viewers with a technical perspective about things as well.
Okay, so I think you're talking about doping. So
Right.
I think doping is it's like poisoning yourself.
Right.
In man's term, doping is poisoning, and to have like organizations such as WADA and these anti-doping organizations working so hard, कि कुछ ऐसा का scene ना हो, और people are doing it in daily life basis.
Right.
It's like very eye-opening to me कि how putting that much stuff into your body, knowing that you are an athlete, knowing that your body is your temple, कि तुम्हारी body से ही सब कुछ निकल रहा है, and putting that poison into you, it's very harmful. And it is more harmful for sports scientists to prescribe doping agents to the players. It's very like, I feel sorry for those scientists in first place to be able to prescribe that, and I feel even more sorry for those athletes who don't know what they're consuming and they consume it. Again, it comes down to awareness. So sports scientists को तो तुम aware कर सकते हो, ठीक है, वो लोग educated है, literate, I mean they know what to do, but you can't prevent those athletes from indulging into doping because they don't know, and there has to be like a stream for them to know what is the result of this drug which I'm taking. How is this drug going to help me? Is it worth it? Is it worth help me in the short run? बाद में क्या होगा? It's very necessary for them to know. And if sports scientists are not telling them and doing it, and they're doing it blindsiding them, it's not just a view which you want to see. And that is one of the reasons why I wanted to move from India. Like, India needs to develop in that aspect. And once it's developed, yes, it's going to be only rise of sports science in India and nothing else.
I guess this is a very sensitive and a very important topic to discover as well. So just for the viewers to be really more precise, like, can you just guide us on how are these doping activities done? Like, how are these doping activities done? How can we recognize there is some kind of tablets, or is it with your protein supplements? How can we defer it or find it out?
So see that there are so many like things which can help you increase your performance, and if you're doing it in a natural way, that doesn't count as doping. If you were doing it with the help of a drug, yes, it's doping. And be it in protein supplements or whichever way you're taking that supplement, be it like through inhaling or through injections or through like just consuming it, whichever route you're taking, it's doing the same harm to your body. Like whichever chemical it is. I'm not sure if you can name chemicals in this podcast.
That's fine. You can go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So even if you're using those type of chemicals, like as basic as sugar, man, like sugar is enough to dope your body. So having said that, I think sports scientists need to be very careful when they're picking even the diet of their clients, I want to say. Like, if you look at the natural sources, for example, if you take an example of a marathon, let's say a runner is running, just to provide like a rush of carbs, we give them a banana. Okay, that helps them just energize themselves. But if you're giving them like an insulin tablet or something of that sort, it could just make or break it. So that that difference, the sports scientist has to make. कि तुम टैबलेट दे रहे हो या तुम बनाना दे रहे हो, और उसी में डोपिंग और एंटी डोपिंग हो जाता है.
Right. I guess this is a really technical point, and many of us, like being a sports player as well, I got to know some certain differences and key takeaways from this. I guess this is really important for players also to understand certain things, that it is not really important to, like, you can increase your performance in a very different way as well, but how you do it, it's more important. Right. Okay, so like in the previous question, like you mentioned a lot about doping, a lot about how nutrition and stuff take place, and it's about what I understand through it is about collecting data. Sports scientists collect data of the athletes, of what they eat, how much they perform, how much they train, how they track their performance basically, and then they have metrics to increase their performance as well. So, do you think it's a loophole in the sports science industry, or it's the loophole in the sports scientist? Because how can an athlete trust a sports scientist with that? Because there are many competitions in the market, and there are players developing, training in a different way, going through it. There are various sports scientists who are connected with these things like that. So do you think, is it fair for athletes to trust someone with their weaknesses, who can, like, it's a loophole in the industry, I feel. What do you think about it?
So, see, I don't necessarily think it's a loophole because obviously that trust needs to be developed and
Exactly.
that trust comes with time. You can't just like expect your first client to trust you 100%. They're going to take some time to know what strategies you're working with, and you're going to take some time to understand if those strategies are working on them,
Right.
or if they are even if the strategies are sinking in with them.
Mhm.
So until you understand like how which is the best way for them to
Mhm.
reciprocate, it's kind of like an ups and downs kind of platform where
Right.
you're still learning about the athlete and the
Mhm.
athlete is still learning about you. And of
Right.
course there's like sensitive information which is involved, and which is why there's a confidentiality clause, there's an NDA clause which is
Mhm.
involved. And even in RR, while I was not directly working on the pitch at the time of COVID, I was working from home. I
Mhm.
had to sign that NDA, and there was some information which I could not disclose to anyone.
Right. Right.
And even now, when I talk about things from RR, I have to be very careful that I can't talk about
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
information because I am on NDA.
Right.
And so when you're working in an environment like this, you have to be very careful about the information which you're sharing. And I'm sure sports scientists are very responsible with their clients' information, be it that speed running car test, be it that other test car information. They have to be very like careful with the data.
Mhm.
Leaking and stuff like that, it's completely out of the box. It cannot happen in sports science
Mhm.
because everything is very sensitive. Each second kind of information is so sensitive, and you can't just let go of it.
Right.
Even same for the athlete. So if let's say if you as a player were coming to me, for you to be able to see like, okay, is this strategy going to work for me? Like
Right.
talking sense.
Right.
It's going to take some time for you to understand that. And once you are there, it's a win-win for both of us.
Right. So it's like, if you work through those strategies, and if you achieve those milestones which you set it for yourself, because nowadays in professional sports, or even in semi-professional sports, or in a semi-professional level, athletes know what they're doing. Athletes know how to enhance their performance. Athletes know what exercises they're working, what should go
Yeah.
inside their stomach. So to trust that and to build that trust, I think it goes both ways. And if the strategy works, it's really helpful for them.
Yeah.
So I guess sports science is developing in a good way. But technically, if we talk about sports science in India, okay, if in specifically in India, so sports science in India, if you go on Google and if you search, there are not many universities who are providing these kind of courses wherein
Hmm.
in-depth study of sports science. There are many niche universities who provide that. So do you think sports science in India is there to stay? Like, people would use sports science in future, or what is your take on it?
Sports science is absolutely there to stay. Like it's just making its own place in India. Um, even for me, when I did sports science, my batch was the first batch in India to be able to do that. Like it has evolved so much in past what 6 years. So in
Mm-hmm.
past years, it has evolved completely. I think at least there would be some 1,000 to 2,000 sports science graduates at this time in India. And at my time, when I used to see companies hiring, there was this white hiring. That's
Mm-hmm.
what we call.
Mm-hmm.
So all the sports brands in India, even IPL for that matter, they were hiring people from the UK, people from the Australia, people from the US.
Mm-hmm.
Even though people in India had the same qualifications, just because they thought they were more qualified or sports sciences developed in UK, Australia, or US.
Mm-hmm.
So for them to bring people from there to India to do the same job, which Indian sports scientists could have done as well,
Right.
that's kind of iffy for me. Like, why are they doing that? Is
Mm-hmm.
it because we are not as educated, or is it because we need that exposure
Right.
to do it? Which is why I think most of the sports scientists who have studied their bachelor's in India or bachelor's abroad, they need to expose themselves to the foreign environment to be able to adjust back in India.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my colleagues, most of my friends, they are doing the same thing. They're just
Right.
trying to get that exposure so they can come back and serve their country better.
Right.
To be the best versions of themselves for their country, that's a big thing to do. And having all of those people fly back to India, work really hard for India, I'm sure sports science is going to stay, and I'm sure India is going to prosper so much after that. There's only good for India. I'm very
Right.
positive.
Right, because India is being a sports nation right now, and there are a lot of sports who are getting those exposures as well. So
Yeah.
basically, right now you mentioned about a challenge that's about awareness or about education in sports science. So there are many such challenges in the sports science industry if we look at it, because there's a lack of infrastructure as well. We don't have that proper technology, we
Absolutely.
don't have proper education or proper trained professionals to train people who are really starting in the sports science industry. So what, according to you, are some of these challenges which are really lacking in India, and that's why India is not progressing in terms of sports? What do you think are some major challenges in the sports science industry?
देखो first challenge is parents. Even go anywhere else, तुम्हारे घर पे ही first challenge है. Even if I was a kid and I went up to my parents and said, okay, I want to be a cricket player, they'll be like, okay, you have to study. Backup you need to have. What if? There's
Exactly.
that. So
Right.
to convince Indian parents, I think that's the biggest challenge. So I think if there are any Indian parents who are listening to this right now, I think you need to give your kids a little more grace. If they really want to develop a career in sports, like give them a chance. So I think first hurdle is going to be parents. So after parents, families, relatives, all of that. The third hurdle would be stereotypical mindset. Our kids have to be doctors, engineers, and stuff like that. It makes me really happy to see professions like photography and stuff like that, come up in India. It's really good that parents are accepting that. But I think it's high time for parents to accept and the society to accept sports as a career as well. So अगर वो stereotype खत्म हो जाए, 3 hurdles तो वहीं पे खत्म है. Moving on, I think yes, there is lack of infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
There is lack of proper funding as well.
Right.
You are giving funding to one place, one academy which is developed, you're putting more money into it. Maybe you need to put money elsewhere as well. I would like to bring up this organization called Bridges of Sport.
Mm-hmm.
I know so many people who are working in this organization, and it's a beautiful organization. So if you get a chance, please Google it, look up
Mm-hmm.
well they are doing, and it's not a very like massively funded organization. It's like a very basic level funded organization, and they're doing really well. The athletes they're producing, the quality of athletes they're producing, hats off to them.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from SAI, Sports Authority India,
Yeah. Yeah.
doing such a good job. Like the amount of people they're hiring at this point and the quality of people they're producing, it's absolutely amazing to see. And to have like centers, sports science centers pop up in Bangalore, in Mumbai, in Delhi, Sporting Ethos, Invictus, all of these organizations, they are doing such a good job. And if all of these organizations are able to, provide as much as it needs,
Right.
I think there's any hurdle left. I don't think there's anything left. So if you clear the stereotype, the funding, the infrastructure, India's got all it needs. They have the
So
yeah.
the Khelo India, which started by the government
Khelo
of
India,
India as
yes.
well, they have like 1,000 centers right now who are providing sports science, and
Yeah.
they are really looking at the athletes from the scratch and are developing them. So that is really a good thing for India as well. So basically, I think it was a really really informative podcast. We got different perspective about sports science and stuff. But for someone who didn't know what sports science is, and after this podcast he decides or she decides that this is what I want to take up, so how would you guide him, and what is that key to success for him in the sports science industry?
Okay. Maybe to start with, they need to understand if sports science is what they really want to do.
Exactly.
Even if they don't know that, like in my case, and if you just like start it, you'll end up liking it. There's nothing to not like in sports science. So maybe just decide like a good university where you can get a bachelor's from. Decide if you want to study in India or if you want to go to another country.
Mhm.
And one more thing which I want to really emphasize on is don't go by the ranking. Like while deciding my master's university, I was like, yeah, it has to be Lucknow. It's the best university in the world. But when you try to see if that university is best for you or not,
Mhm.
like let's say if a person is doing a course A, and doing that course A also, you need to see what the faculty is interested in, the teaching faculty in that university, what is their major in, what are the dissertation projects they're going to take in. So if you really want to join sports science, I request you to understand like which stream you want to go in, and then look at the universities, and not just like do it according to the ranking or anything of that sort. So get a basic bachelor's degree in sports science or sports medicine, sports management, anything, whichever pleases you. And then you can get a specific master's degree in whichever stream you like. So if you're doing a basic sports science, it would come with 8 to 12 subjects. And you can decide a major for master's, be it exercise physiology, strength and conditioning. There are so many subjects.
Mhm.
Once you're clear about what you want, it's easy to go with it.
Right.
But yeah, you need to understand the kind of university you want and the kind of life you want after
Mhm.
that, and just go behind rankings.
Yeah, so it's really a step to success in the sports science, and also how to go about
Yes, yes.
basically who really wants to, you know, get into sports science.
Yeah.
So, Chavi, thank you so much for this amazing podcast. And there are certain ways, certain streams which you really emphasized on and pointed out, which are really need to be addressed in a really broad way, in a subjective way as well. So, before the end of it, I really want to ask you and request you for another podcast wherein we specifically talk about doping and specifically talk about
Absolutely.
performance enhancing, which would
Okay.
really benefit athletes and whoever will watch us. So thank you, Chavi, for your amazing time, and thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope people get some information out of this, and you're doing a wonderful job. Kudos to your um, podcast. I wish you best of luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you.